Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Angular Africa channel. I'm super excited to have you guys here. My name is Valentine Awe, and I'm here with Oyimade Oyimaja, the host of Angular Africa, and
Hello,
also Bonnie,
everyone.
yeah, and also Bonnie, our big mommy, who is always behind the scenes supporting us and giving us
Hello.
motivation and words of wisdom. So today we will be having Anna Boca, who will be taking us through, some interesting Cypress vibes. And the title of our talk today is the testing intern and the big giant Cypress. So Anna, take it away from here. The floor is open.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valentine, and thank you, Bonnie and Tim, for conspiring to get this all set up, and Oya for having us as well. Can everybody see my screen? Good. Okay. And I put a link in the top of the chat message, so that has all the presentation links, so that I'm not constantly putting links in the chat, so you can follow along that way. All right. I'm going to be talking up a storm here for the first 15 to 20 minutes. So let's get started. So before we begin, I want to forewarn you all that I am unfortunately a big filler word person with a lot of ums and ahs. I do have a script that I will be going off of to try and combat as much of the filler language as I can, as I know that can be super annoying to listen to. Okie dokie, let's get started. Welcome to the testing intern and the big giant Cypress, a beginner's entry point into the Cypress testing framework. Hi there. You might be here because of Angular's request for comments about deprecating protractor, or you don't know Cypress, or you don't know any testing framework, or all of the above. Again, my name is Anna Boca, and I'm a software development engineer in test intern at Universal Plant Services. When I started working for UPS, the company decided to make the switch from protractor to Cypress because of the RFC. Cypress is also the first testing framework I have learned and am still learning about. In this talk, I will share the learning resources I found most helpful. We'll be taking a look at an example of Cypress in a simple to-do app. We'll test some of your knowledge on Cypress with a Kahoot. Then we will discuss any and all questions you have about Cypress. And you're thinking, or some of you might already not be thinking because you know who's here, but you're thinking, Anna, an intern is going to be answering all my complex questions about Cypress? No. By we will discuss, I mean Adam and Paul from the Cypress team, and you will discuss. That brings me to my next point. Guess who's here? Adam and Paul from the Cypress team. Adam, if you could introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm Adam Murray. I'm a team lead on our developer experience team. Our team right now is largely focused on helping users that are in the Angular space that have been using Protractor or maybe any other tool to learn how to better use Cypress.
And Paul, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Paul. I'm also on the Cypress DX team. I come from Brooklyn, New York, and basically everything Adam just said. We're here to help.
Brooklyn in the house.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. So.
Yay! Awesome. Thank you guys, and thank you so much for being here again. So Angular Nation met with the Cypress team on June 10th. The recording is on the presentation links document I shared in the chat. In addition to meeting with Adam and Paul during this event, we also met with Matt Hamill and Matt's cat Aria. If you have not seen this meet and greet, I recommend watching it. There were a lot of excellent questions asked during this session. Shai Resnick, the Angular testing guy and guru, I like to call him, was also in the meeting. I recently went to his free cost-effective Angular testing workshop, and it was great. He had touched on smoke testing during the workshop. If you are interested in attending the workshop, you can get signed up at testangular.com. And a big thank you to my manager, Tim, because I also happen to now officially be part of Shai's testing inner circle and signed up to take a number of Shai's courses that have rave reviews, and this is all because of Tim. What I can say so far is that I am so happy to be a part of this not so secret society. And if you haven't taken any of Shai's courses before, you're in for quite a treat. Additionally, Angular Nation will be hosting monthly Ask a Testing Expert with Shai Resnick, Cypress, and more events. Shai will, of course, be at these events along with Adam, Paul, and Matt from Cypress. I went to the first event a couple of weeks ago, and it was fantastic. I got a very detailed and in-depth answer to one of my questions from Shai, and there was even a heated discussion about how to select elements in Cypress. And I apologize for this cattail that's going on in here. All right, look at the slide.
Anna, we love this cattail so much. It's just so perfect.
Yeah, he just decided to help me out.
He's
All
great.
Right. All right, as an intern, let's see what resources I found to be the most helpful. My learning journey began 2021, an intern's odyssey. The dawn of my first day as a testing intern with the black monolith of Cypress dropped down into my world looks something like this. Wait for the awkward pause. Okay, that's it for that. Anyway, that was exactly what it looked like. Me sleeping, waking up, and then stomping my foot when I had this black monolith of Cypress dropped down. All right, let me see if I can actually move to the next slide without this playing again. There we go. All right, first of all, what is Cypress? Cypress is a JavaScript end-to-end testing framework. You can install Cypress globally as a dev dependency in your project, or you can use a schematic. Once Cypress is installed, there will be a cypress.json file, the main configuration file, and a Cypress folder with a fixtures folder, integration folder with an examples folder full of example tests inside that, a plugins folder, and a support folder. So, to be honest, my entry point into Cypress and testing in general was actually not dramatic or mysterious or scary at all like that opening scene. The Cypress documentation has everything. The documentation is easy to follow, even for a developer with beginner level technical knowledge like me. The document is also not like the meme on the slide either. Can you see the issue in the picture, by the way? The documentation, which is also linked on this slide, and the presentation links document I sent earlier, is structured like a well-curated tutorial. Cypress also provides users with some example apps like the Real World app and the Kitchen Sink app. So, after initially going through a big chunk of the beginning sections of the Cypress documentation, I took the Cypress Web Automation Testing from Zero to Hero course on Udemy by Artem Bandar. Artem Bandar's course on Udemy was excellent. He progresses from the basics of getting Cypress set up and selecting elements in the app to using the page object pattern to advanced topics like, and I can never say this word, parallelization, but basically running tests on multiple machines at the same time. I highly recommend taking this course. It takes a little longer than the 8.5 hours that is listed, so I'd recommend spreading out this course over a couple of weekends. I also found this article by David Werfel, I'm probably saying his name incorrectly, quite helpful when using Cypress specifically with Angular and TypeScript. Initially, when I installed Cypress on my example to-do app that we'll be taking a look at later, I used the basics with JavaScript files. I then later reconfigured my testing files to use TypeScript, partially with the help of the @brebugs/Cypress schematic, but I will be giving you an even more poignant recommendation on the next slide. I also went to the Angular E2E testing Protractor is Dead Long Live Cypress meetup event that was hosted by Manfred Steyer and presented by Reina Heinekamp. This talk was excellent because it really gave a detailed breakdown of how and why Angular went about deprecating Protractor. Reina also gave a great compare-contrast into the technologies behind testing frameworks such as WebDriver and the Chrome DevTools protocol. He also explained why and how Cypress is awesome because it runs in the browser and works with the native elements, thus making it one of the most reliable testing frameworks. I also learned about the Open Selector Playground button from this talk, which I will show you when we go through the Cypress example. This button is incredibly helpful. All right, you're thinking, why is Cypress so awesome? I just want to know how to get Cypress set up with my Angular project, Anna. Follow Adam's blog post. It's as simple as adding the schematic to your Angular project with ng-add at Cypress/schematic. The official Cypress Angular schematic actually used the @Breebug Cypress schematic I spoke about before as a starting point, so that's pretty cool. All right. I am one lucky duck because I was able to meet with Adam and Paul to get some feedback and direction on some best practices. As a side note, they were so freaking professional. They made sure to look through my app and these slides for this very presentation before our meeting. I was blown away. Thank you. They are also so wonderful to talk with in general. They really are awesome at focusing on making the experience for us developers accessible. Adam pointed me to the UI login flow for the Cypress Real World app, and I'm actually going to open that up right here and share this tab instead and just show you this test right here, the login test right here, at least a little part of it. Let me make it bigger for you guys. Windows. Oh my goodness. Okay, I made it a little too big. Hold on one second. Technical issues. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Oh, goodness. Here we go. Okay, I was pressing the wrong button to make it bigger. That's better. Okay, can you guys see? Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep,
Sorry about
there
that. Okay, live technical issues. It happens. All right. So this is an excellent example of what a true E2E test looks like. I was surprised to see how big some of the tests were with so many assertion statements, as I was previously taught to try and limit my test to have one assertion per test. But there is no need, as you can see what assertion the test failed on in the Cypress test runner. Let me see here. You can see in the test that there is a lot of element selecting going on. You will be using the global Sci object and selecting elements on the page using the get method on the Sci object. The get method uses CSS selectors. I will also show you this in a little more detail in the example app. Paul also pointed me to a Cypress best practice about not writing end-to-end tests like unit tests. And this was a whole mindset shift. Adam also mentioned that having a lot of small tests with single assertions is not quite performant as there is a lot of load. Writing end-to-end tests in general requires a mindset shift about testing the whole user flow and not small functionality like with unit tests. The Cypress best practices are linked on the slide and on the presentation links document. All right, let me go back to the sharing this guy. Here we go. Boom. All right, Anna, I just want to know how to migrate my protractor test to Cypress. Well, again, don't worry. Here is the link to a whole guide that Cypress created to make the migration process easy. The link is also on the presentation links document. I also heard from a little bird, Shai Resnick, during the Ask a Testing Expert event that he is working on a course, I think with Adam's help, if I'm not mistaken, about migrating from protractor to Cypress. All right, let's continue to move on. Okay. All right. Here is how I applied my learning. My manager, Tim, suggested that I start writing tests in Cypress for one of my existing personal projects, and this was a great suggestion. I received feedback multiple points along the way from my manager, Tim, the QA team at UPS, Katerina, Sylvain, and Vlad, some of which are here right now, which is awesome, a full stack dev at UPS, Earl, and my husband, who is not a testing expert, but is an Angular expert, who has used different testing frameworks, and the Cypress team directly, Adam and Paul. I had a lot of excellent feedback from a lot of excellent people. This slide includes the process that I took when applying what I learned about Cypress, and hopefully some of these steps can be curtailed for you when you first begin to use Cypress. You can learn from my mistakes or learn from my learning. All right. Finally, let's take a look. The links for this app are on the presentation links document. So this app was also the first official Angular app I created. I created it as a part of the NG Girls at NGConf workshop this year. I have expanded on what the mentors had us create in that workshop. I am aware that it is not perfect and uses imperative as opposed to reactive code. So let me share my screen and share in a different way so that you can actually see my VS Code here. Share your entire screen. Okay, it's loading. Beautiful. And let me make sure this is maybe just a little bit bigger. Can you all see my VS Code up?
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. All right. So let me actually go over, for the time being, to the to-do app itself and give you a little preview of that. I have my other script here. All right, here is the to-do app. You can see that it has an option to enter in a to-do item, to search to-do items, to move items up and down, check items, edit items, and remove items. This app also uses local storage to save the items. You can see right here. Let's go over to VS Code and over to the app file itself, app files. So here's the code for the app. The add item input logic is in the input button unit component. The search item input logic is in the input search filter component. I have some interfaces. There is a list manager component, which contains the input button unit and input search filter components. There is a storage service right here, which is responsible for storing the to-do items in local storage. And there is the to-do list service, which serves as the root state service for the app and handles all the adding, updating, deleting, and moving logic for the to-do items. Then there is the to-do item component itself right here, which has the structure of the to-do item and links all the necessary logic. Additionally, I have some validation logic that I included inside one of the components for adding an item. And then I have a separate validation logic in the validators folder to handle the editing logic on the to-do items. I split it up in this way to get practice handling validation with Angular in different ways. Let's take a look at Cypress for this app. So once I installed Cypress on my project, it added the cypress.json file to the top level right here, right there, and a Cypress folder, which is up here also at the top level. If we take a look at the cypress.json file right over here, you can see various settings that can be configured. You can list the base URL for the app and the locations for various folders inside the Cypress folder. This is particularly helpful when using Cypress in a mono repo, as you can update the fixtures folder, for example, to point to the project-specific fixtures folder. Inside the Cypress folder, you can see there is a tsconfig file, tsconfig.json file. Let me scroll up here, right here. I have it open over here as well. That extends the base tsconfig.json file for the project. Making sure to have the Cypress types included right here is quite important. Inside the Cypress folder, you can see there is a fixtures folder right here, an integration folder, a plugins folder, and a support folder. The fixtures folder is where you store any data that you want to use for your tests, so any data that you're faking. The integration folder is where you put your actual spec files. The plugins folder houses any plugins which can be added to the index.js file. And this is also where you import a reference to the Cypress types. And I'll just show you that real quick. This reference right here. The support folder includes the index.ts and command.ts files and is where you can create custom commands to use in your test files. You can also house your page objects under the support folder if you are using the page object pattern right here. I created a separate page objects folder to house my page object classes. So I only have one test file, and let's go to that one. It's called todo ui.spec.ts right here. Let me make that a little larger right here. As you can see, I have a describe block and many it statements inside the describe block that explain my tests. So here's the describe block, and then all the nested it statements. And I have little English language right there that says what each test does. I also have before and before each hooks. I'm going to go ahead and run my tests. So let me do that. In order to do that, you need to make sure that your application is up and running. I already have the app running on localhost. You can see in this terminal over here on the left. Then you need to open the Cypress test runner. If you use a schematic to install Cypress, then it may have already added some nice commands to your package.json file to pull up the test runner. So I'll show you that as well. These were added by the @rebug schematic that I used, sci.run and sci.open. I have this command right here memorized, so this is the one that I generally use though, and it pulls up this test runner right here. All right, so here's the Cypress test runner. You can see that it pulls up any test files that exist in the integration folder. Additionally, you can test on different browsers right here, the Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Electron. So that's nice. Let me click on the file to run my tests. All right, let's see how this goes. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's mimicking the user action so nicely.
Yeah.
And I have one last test and boom, wow. What was that? That was under 17 seconds. Yeah, that was awesome, huh? If we actually take a look at this first test right here that tests out the search functionality for the app, you can see exactly where the assertions are made. So I have an assertion here in the before all hook, and then I have these assertions that are related to the actual test itself. You can also pin a snapshot so you can see the state of the test at a particular point and click before and after. When you pin a snapshot, the related element will be printed to the console. So let me do that right here. I'm going to do it when I'm typing in DE into the search input box right here. I'm going to pin that snapshot, and you can see right here at the bottom in this view over here that here's what the app looks like, or the page looks like before I type in DE. Here's what it looks like after. So that's wonderful. And then if I actually bring up the console, press F12, you can see this is the action is being performed on this search input right here. So it actually gets printed to the console. So that's quite nice. Let me close that, unpin this. Let me see here. Additionally, there is the Open Selector Playground button, which I told you I love, which will help you figure out how to select an element. So if you go right here, click the Open Selector Playground button, and you can scroll. This gives you suggestions kind of as a starting point of where to select elements. You don't necessarily want to have this verbose language end up in your actual when you're selecting elements, but this is like nice to kind of quickly locate where you are, and then you can pare it down. All right, let's actually take a look at the first test I wrote to see how Cypress does this. So I'm actually going to go back to just the application itself and show you kind of the manual test. So my first test is testing out the search functionality on the app right here. I go through the to-do items. Here there are 6 of them, and see how many include the search input fixture DE, so the string DE, and save that number. Then I actually type DE into that bar right there, the search input, and make sure that the number of items that appears on this filtered list is equal to the number that I got before. I also go through this filtered list to make sure that it does in fact include the DE search term in each item as well, as kind of a double assertion. All right, let's go over to VS Code now and back to the test file. Here we go. All right, and let me do a split screen with my page object in the test file. I believe it is not the base page, it's the home page guy that I want. There we go. All right. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So I am using a page object to abstract away various elements and methods. And you can also see this again on the GitHub link if you want to kind of take a closer look at it on your own computer. Now, you don't have to use the page object pattern in the way that I am. There are many, many ways to skin a cat, as they say. However, this level of abstraction allows me to create what I think are more readable element names and method names. I will show you an example of how to use page objects that Matt from Cypress is working on after I go through my test. Page objects are helpful because you can have all of the associated elements and methods needed for testing that are related to one particular page on an app. This is not only helpful for readability's sake, but also for organizing your testing code and for navigating to different pages when testing. At the bottom of the spec file, so I'm going to scroll down here to show you these two tests. Whoop, I've got quite a few tests right here. So at the bottom of the spec file, you can see that I have the same test, one that is refactored using page objects and one that is not refactored. In the non-refactored test, I am using what you would start writing your test with. Right here, I'm using the global Cypress object along with the methods that are available on that object. Cypress is wonderful because it provides you with a very intuitive way to essentially write scripts to simulate user actions. Using sci.get is probably the most common method that you will use with Cypress, and you will put a CSS selector inside to get various elements on the page. So this is just for you to see what this would look like without using the page object pattern, so you have a reference. Okay, back to the first test. Let me scroll up here. There we go. All right. Samantha's leaving by, Sam. Thank you. All right. So let me see here. I lost my place here. Okay, back to the first test. So you can add dot only to the it statement if you want to run and work with only one test, which is excellent when you're developing your test in isolation so that you can make sure that they're independent from one another. So let's do that now just so that you can see what this looks like. I'm going to add dot only to my first test and pull up the Cypress test runner, and you can see now it's only running that one test. So that's quite helpful when you're working on your tests. Another helpful addition that you can add is the .skip method as well. So you have some options there, which makes it really nice to just test out one test independently. Let me remove that now. Okay. All right, here. So you can see, I'm going to go back up here to the top of the test file and kind of explain what's going on in these initial hooks. You can see that the first thing I do in the before hook is declare an instance of my page object to work with in all the it statements later. I then navigate to the page and make sure that I am on the proper page. So that all happens inside this assert navigate to and verify home page method, which is down here on my page object. Somewhere, oh, here it is. It's right here. So this is actually using a method that's available on a different page object class, and then I'm asserting that the page contains the header that it's supposed to contain. I also have an example here in this before hook of adding a bunch of to-do items that I immediately delete. This is just for you to see that you can add a large data set to work with in your test later on if you want. Then in the search test, right here, I access elements and methods from the page object. In this test, I write out the logic that I had described before when I was showing you the app and typing DE into the search input. You can see that I have created a private property for the search input on the page object. So right here, I am using search input element, that input box, and I'm typing in DE. That's what this one line is doing right here. And so you can see on this page object class right here, I have a private property for the search input right here and a getter for it. So again, this is one way to do this, and if you don't like this level of abstraction, you can do it differently. I am actually using a method from the getter from my base page object, so I'm actually going to do, you can see I'm using this get page element that's coming from a different page object class. I'm going to F12 on that. Here's this method. So it returns the sci.get, and I'm using this data sci attribute selector. So you use the global sci object in the get method, and you can access the element using CSS selectors. Cypress recommends using the data sci attribute selectors. I added the data sci attribute to the search input and added a value to it. We can see this on the component. So let me just show you where I added it on the actual component itself, which is in this TypeScript file over here. So it's right here. I added this attribute and value over there. And so that's where I'm getting the element. So this attribute selector is a recommended best practice because it indicates, partially one of the reasons is because it indicates to developers, hey, don't delete this item. We need it for testing, or discuss with somebody before you delete. Some developers don't like using the attribute selector because they don't like adding to the code unless it is used for an additional purpose. We got into quite a fun debate about it in the last Ask the Testing Expert event. We can talk or debate about this further in the Q&A. All right, back to the test right here. So to the searching test. I then clear out what I typed from the input at the end of my test, so that my other tests can run without having this, thing be typed in and having the filtered list appear, so that they can work independently of one another. You can see I have a before each hook that also clears out any to-do items that I added during the test. Right here, I have this method that I created for it. I linked another best practice right here and on the presentation links document about dangling state that Paul from Cypress had recommended. Essentially, you want to reset your data before each test and not after, generally speaking. All right, let's go back to the presentation now. Let me minimize that guy. All right, good, we're on the presentation slide. So here is an example of a different way to work with page objects. I use a class with private properties, getters, and methods. Here, Matt Hamill exports variables and functions. Now, you do not have to use page objects at all, especially when starting out. When beginning, you would use the global Cypress object and go through using sci.get and sci.should and sci.click to simulate user actions on your app. However, page objects do come in handy for readability's sake and for scalability's sake. All right, that's it for the example app. I encourage you to explore Cypress's example apps that I linked before. Keep an eye out for the page object guide that Cypress will be coming out with soon. And feel free to use my app as a starter reference. Also, here's a fantastic bonus that Paul let us know about recently on the Cypress channel on Angular Nation. Cypress Studio is a test recorder that can actually generate tests for you. Cypress is amazing, and we live in the future. This is an excellent feature to use, especially as a starting out point for beginners and in general when writing your test. It is similar in the sense to the Open Selector Playground button that I love so much. The Open Selector Playground button provides you with a verbose selector as an excellent starting point that you can pare down to a more unique and condensed selector. This Cypress Studio writes initial tests for you based on your actions, and you can later refine those generated tests. Wild. All right, let's keep going on here. Okay. I think now you have enough knowledge to get started with Cypress. You're well on your way to becoming a Cypress expert in no time. Let's see who really knows their stuff. Go to kahoot.it and enter a game pin. I'll put this in the chat as well. Go to kahoot.it. And I'm actually going to share in a different way so that you can hear the music. So let me go to share via tab, Kahoot. All right, there we go. And let me also put the game pin in the chat, 3679454. Boom. I think that's the right one. Okay, Ani, awesome. We got Sonder, we got Bonster, we got Tim. And let me turn on the music so you can hear it, because it's fun. And Bonnie had given us like some hints before that if you actually play via the app on your phone, you get like a little time advantage on it. Bonnie's dancing.
I really struggled because Sam always wants to have. Well, Sam was really the one who always inspired the Kahoot. She said we have to have a Kahoot for like everything, and everybody loves Kahoots. And Samantha and I learned very quickly it's not nearly as much fun without the music. So props to Anna for turning the music on. And I just want to take this opportunity to say props to Anna for all that whole talk was amazing. I'm so impressed with you. But I'm also very excited that you turned the music on because I love music. You see, everybody's impressed with you. Look at all that applause.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's more fun to dance. I practiced this several times with my husband, and I was always dancing.
Yeah.
Okay, I wonder if we have everybody. If I should, I'll wait a little while longer, and then we'll get started. But we've got quite a few people in there. 17. Wow. I think actually I only have the option to have a max of 20.
I see Adam and Paul in there, and I'm like,
man.
I just have a feeling like they're not gonna let y'all win. You have to actually earn it.
Yeah.
They might look like nice guys, but they're out for blood.
It looks like we're at 17. I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna go for it. All right. I'm asking some really, really, really difficult questions, by the way. All right. The testing intern in the big giant Cypress. Let's see. Got 8 questions. Once Cypress is installed in your project, what 4 folders are present inside the main Cypress folder? Told you, really tricky questions. Did everybody get it right? Woo! Almost everybody got it right. All right. Let's see. Sneaky. Oh, that sneaky cat is sneaky. Sneaking to the top. That's cool. Then we've got Luke Skywalker, Demalia, Laud, and Bonster. Awesome. All right, next question. What is the name of the main configuration file that gets added to your project once Cypress is installed? Really difficult. You know, if we test the easy stuff, then you guys will have it down, no problem. That's what I wanted to do. Interesting. There was a little bit of debate about this one, but yep, it is the green one. That's the main configuration file generally. Yeah.
In my defense, I knew it. I just didn't see the lowercase one. So off the leaderboard. That's so sad.
I threw people off with that one. We've got Sneaky Cat, Luke Skywalker again, Demalia, Cade, and Laud. So these 4 are on here. Now Cade is on the leaderboard. All right, number 3. What is the command to add the official Cypress Angular schematic? Yeah, I was wondering if people were going to select this one, but yes, it is the yellow one, the Cypress/schematic. That was the one that Adam has like a very nice, simple blog post about how to use it. All right. Oh, look at this one. Luke Skywalker is on fire, and Demalia knocked. Where did the sneaky cat go? Oh, no. But Demalia is now at the top. Awesome. All right, number 4. We're halfway there. Where can you find the Cypress documentation? I want to make sure you guys know where to go. Okay, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that the GitHub link is like I don't know, that one's debatable, so sorry, but I made it the green one as the right answer, where it's actually on the Cypress website itself. All right, let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, look, Adam. Adam's coming up. All right, and now Kate is at the top. Awesome.
He's not going to let you win, Cade. You got to get it. You got to keep going.
All right. What folder do you put any test data to work with in Cypress? So any test data that you're faking, essentially. Yep, most people got that one right. Integration, you know, it's kind of a debate because you can put it in different places in the spec file and that kind of thing, but generally speaking, you put your fixtures in the fixture folder. All right, let's see. Oh man, Adam's there. Awesome. We've got Luke Skywalker, Sneaky Cat is back, Demalia, and Cade. All right. 6, 7, 8. 3 more questions. What is the best way to access the selector? And I know some people are probably gonna gripe about this because it was what we had debated about, but what is the recommended best practice of how to select? What? Awesome. Yep. So that's the recommended best practice. We can argue about it later. All right. Oh, Adam's on fire. We've got Luke, Demalia, Cade, and CD. CD, not sure who that is. Interesting. Okay, 2 more questions. What does the it statement look like if you only want to run one test from the test file? Just very helpful when you're writing your test and you want to make sure that they're independent of one another. Yep, perfect. Green, it.only, and then it.skip is another one that's helpful. All right. We've got Luke, Demalia, Cade, CD, and Adam. Shift in leaderboard. Last question. What button do you press in Cypress in order to find a selector in your app? So what's that button that I love so much that's quite helpful? Oh, interesting. This one was like kind of a split. I'm sorry. I think I made this one a little tricky. It is the red one though. Yep. Open selector playground button. All right. Let's see the placements. In 3rd place, Luke Skywalker. Yay. Adam is 2nd. Woo. Number 1 is Cade. Whoa. Kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh my goodness. Cade beat Adam on the Cypress. That's crazy. Who is Cade?
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
It was the quick clicks that got me there.
Ooh.
All right. Good job, Cade.
Thank you, Adam, for letting me do that.
Are you the new person
Nicely
here,
done.
Cade? We don't know you. You have made quite an impression on your first day, my friend.
Well, I try.
We'll
Yes, I'm
never
brand
forget
new
you.
to the community.
Welcome. That's it. I don't know if you can top that first day. You beat the Cypress team on the Cypress game. That's great. And now he did know the answer. It was just you got it faster.
Correct, yeah. And I've got to say, Anna did an amazing job. Succinct, to the point. Love that speech. The talk was really good, really good.
Thank you so much.
That
Yeah,
was
before we
amazing.
went, oh, thank you. Yeah, before we go on to the Q&A, I just wanted to give my props where props are due, and thank you, Cade, for that. And oh my God, that was amazing. So I want to give my profuse thanks to Paul and Adam for meeting with me multiple times, providing me with poignant feedback, and for facilitating the Q&A for this talk and for future instances of this talk. I'll be doing it on Angular South Asia later and Angular Air later. Thank you both so much for your time and sharing your expertise with me. Additionally, I want to profusely thank both Bonnie and my manager, Tim. They have both been doing the opposite of conspiring against me. Rather, they have been conspiring together for my success, and I am beyond grateful to them. They were the ones who set me up to have a job. Bonnie put together this wonderful job fair event on Angular Nation a few months back, and I was able to connect with Tim at this event. Also, this very talk, which Bonnie already said before, is happening because of both of them providing me with the opportunity to do so. Bonnie setting up an Angular Nation and setting up a head swiveling beginner like me with other fellow learners and with the big dogs themselves have been invaluable. And yeah, just thank you all so much again. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the questions. That actually, my chattiness went on for a lot longer than I had practiced or anticipated, so I apologize for that. But yeah, ask your questions. Adam and Paul are here.
Thank you very much, Anna Boca. Really appreciate, and we enjoyed your talk. I personally did enjoy the talk. It was super cool and fun.
You killed
you.
it, Anna.
You killed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So guys, you can bring up your questions so that Anna can answer, or we have other people, Adam, we have Bonnie, and other people can help if there's need. I think I have a question, and I think I should just go first while others prepare their questions. So I noticed in one of the files, I think it was the todo .spec file or so, you were instantiating the components. We're creating new instance of the component. How do you manage dependencies? Like maybe you've injected something like a service in that component. How would you handle that?
That's a good question. That's that's a good one for Paul or Adam.
Paul, I think, are you on mute? Are you talking?
No, go for it.
Okay, so yeah, so I think what you're asking is, so help me understand it. But what you're asking is, how do you make sure that all the things that you're relying on, whether it's a service or whether it's any other sort of dependency, is accessible when you're running your test?
Exactly.
Okay, and that was the important part about what Anna said, was you have to make sure that it's running on the server first before it actually goes against tests. So that's, you have that base URL, which would be, if you're doing localhost, it would be localhost and whatever port you're running. So when you fire that up, Cypress is going to ensure that that's running on your local server first, or whatever server it may be, whether it's a test server, whatever it is, and then it's going to run the tests against that endpoint. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm talking about in terms of dependence, like a service.
So the service would have to be accessible within. So I mean, just like when you run your app locally, if you can access that service, remotely, then that's fine. If you can't, then it's gonna fail, just like anything else.
Okay. Okay.
I feel jealous of Paul because he's at the
Sanda, your
beach.
mic is on mute.
Yeah. I might want to add to that testing service is more something for like unit tests and not for end-to-end tests. Cypress is more for end-to-end tests. And there is this gray area in between where everything is fuzzy. If it's not easy to select, it probably needs a unit test. But
yeah. Oh, sorry, Sander. I was just going to hop on that and say, that's where fixtures would come in very handy, where we have things like Intercept or Request. You would use those type of things because you want these tests to be deterministic, and what that, you don't want them to rely on a service that's exterior. If you've got these end-to-end tests, you want to test them in a place that's going to, that service is going to return the same way every time. And so that's where these fixtures come in really handy.
Okay, I think that's clear. Thank you. Okay, so we need. Do you have questions? You can raise up your hand. You can just take the way. Okay, Azaria, you can go first.
Hello, guys. So like just to add on to that, you were Adam, you said that using Intercept to actually intercept, you specifically talking about requests and responses that are being made from the application itself. So now, let's say that it was an API that was changing over time, and that response changed. Now, I would want actually update those fixtures to ensure that you are always testing against a realistic version of the response that you're getting from the servers.
Yes, you're going to absolutely want to update those fixtures routinely as those APIs change.
And I think that probably is maybe nested under the larger dialogue of, are you using live APIs or are you using mock or stub data? And, there are pros and cons to either one. And when you do go the route where you're mocking out the data, that's maybe one of the shortfalls is, it could become out of date with the real API. So that requires you to just keep that in sync.
Okay, that's all right. Does that answer your question? Are you good?
Yes, it does. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Dimitri, is that you raising up your hand? Who said he was raising up his hand physically? I'm sure I missed that.
He was trying to find the raise his hand button, but he just raised his hand like in real life instead.
Okay, you can have it. Yeah, Dimitri,
I
can have it.
muted Dimitri. Okay, Dimitri, we can't hear
We can't
you.
hear you, Dimitri. You came off mute, but I think your audio is not working. He just wants to tell us how amazed he is with Anna. That's really, I think. Anna, you're muted. He's not muted, but his audio is messed up, and then you're muted. Yeah.
Let me do a little teleporting for you. Yeah.
Okay, so while we wait for Dimitri to
Okay,
fix
now
his
that was pretty cool.
Can you guys hear me now?
Now we can hear you. You just needed Anna in your office.
Yes, magic.
Anna, can you
Magic.
come here the next time I have audio problems? You just walk into my camera and fix it. That would be cool.
Okay, I'm gonna go back.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. My microphone settings got messed up, and I have like 6 options to select from. Anyway, going back to the previous question about testing services, you said Cypress provides some hooks where you can basically mock some data, mock some API requests. That sounds great, and that makes things deterministic. But doesn't it mean that this is not a true end-to-end test then? If you're mocking a part of your application, does it make it more like an integration test? And what if API, there happens to be some API changes and you suddenly are not aware of those because you are mocking API?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, you can use Cypress to test APIs. There's a lot of documentation out there on how to use it to test your APIs if you want to. And I think you're more than welcome to use it to test. If again, I think this goes into more of like a overall testing discussion, right? Like kind of the how do you test? I think you're more than welcome if you want to test that external API and to rely on that. The caveat there being, what if it's not available? Is that a problem with your application? Is that a problem with your API? It just really depends on what you're wanting to test and how much of it. If I'm relying on an external service and I don't have any control over it and it fails, is that something that I want to, have a test in my application for? And maybe it is. I don't know really. I think that's up to you. But Cypress offers the opportunity to do both of those things.
Great answer. Basically, it's up for our decision. Sounds great. Thank you.
That's correct. And I've worked with QA testers before that really had the same struggle where they wanted to be able to test that API layer because those APIs were changing frequently enough where it could jeopardize the application as a whole. So yeah, I understand both sides.
And I would say, just add to that, certainly because we support both, we've seen a lot of folks do exactly that, do both, do an integration test with some mock data, save the real live API for maybe like a final full end-to-end test, or just to be sure to have like a separate test that is ensuring that the live API is working as expected. Again, you'll have the same issue of keeping things in sync with the live versus the mock data. But yeah, because we support both, doing both, why not? so long as you don't have some, there's always the, the live API if you have like an e-commerce site or something, and you get into that world. But so long as it's something that you can do, I mean, you certainly should.
And it wasn't a tonic that I was looking at. There was another product that I just saw recently, and I'm racking my brain to think of what it was. But you can actually point it at an endpoint, and it'll go grab it, and you can poll it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want. It'll go grab the data and put it in a JSON file for you in that structure. So I thought that would be a really cool thing to integrate with Cypress. You could have it pull into this fixtures file, and you'd be constantly updated with new data. So you'd have a deterministic way to test that, but it would be against new data that you're not always having to go out and grab it. But that was one thing, and I think it's really important to note there is a lot of flexibility that comes with Cypress. And, while we do have best practices, sometimes obviously those change over time. Like we've had the data sci conversation and all that. Those things are important to know. It's up to you and your individual testing, largely. Now there are best practices, and I would say go on the website or go on the Cypress docs and look for those. But think, for instance, with page objects, I know a lot of people in the past have kind of shied away from Cypress because they said, oh, you don't support page objects. Well, that's something at least our team is wanting to say, that's not true. We do support them. There is a way to go about using them, though, that is most effective within Cypress. So
it's so great to be able to have these conversations with you guys, because Cypress was like, it just seems so like the Cypress team is like so mysterious. And now you guys are just right here, and and you just make everything so easy. Like, yeah, you can totally do that. And it's so
some of
cool.
us are still mysterious.
Yeah, but at least we have you guys. It makes Cypress a lot more approachable.
Okay, Azara, you can ask your question.
On that point specifically, wouldn't you want to actually verify that the structure of the response is actually correct compared to actually getting data directly from the server? Because what if you define your own fixtures with different data permutations that you're running against your tests, and you want to actually just verify that the structure is still correct? Is that something that's perhaps on Cypress roadmap?
Well, I'm trying to think, for me, when you're testing that and you're testing that front end and you're actually going through and you're doing all the, that's the thing. We have the built-in assertions. You have direct assertions, but we have built-in assertions too, just making sure the whole thing's working. As you're doing that, you're kind of in a way verifying that the API is correct, or not, like, and the structure is correct. Because you can't fire off requests and different actions if the data is not there, or right?
Yeah, but it said the response would be different. The data response would be different. Yeah.
There are different tools to test APIs, though, and those are specialized in those kind of things. I think you can do it with Cypress and using some interceptors in Angular that catch those things. It needs some manual setup, though. It's like specialized for your own scenario. It's not that hard to do. It will take me a day or two. So,
yeah, but and what I'm mostly talking about is that front end UI layer. If all of a sudden the API changes on the back end and it's different, when you start to do actions on the front end, and you're either posting or getting whatever it may be, that's not going to be there, and it should show up pretty fast, right? That something's broken.
Yeah.
But again, that gets back to the point of, if you have your fixture files and you've created it and they haven't been updated, I guess the API, then I guess that is one way that those tests would continue to pass, even though the actual API changed. So that's something to take note of.
Yeah. What I like to do, if you have control over the full stack, is set up a test server with like a database that resembles the normal database, but basically rolls back after every test. So you have the same database when you start testing, and your test should run. And when you're done, you just do a rollback and you start over with a fresh data, with the same fresh data.
He just froze. I've never seen him freeze like that. Sonder has such a good internet connection. I thought he was pausing for effect. What's that?
I was just gonna say I do like that idea of having a test database and roll it back after the test.
Yeah.
Sonder makes everything simpler. That's why we love Sonder so much. You can bring him the most complicated architectural problem, and he'll be like, "Oh, just do that," and it's like, "Oh, psh, that's so easy."
Yeah.
Well, while he's frozen, I'm going to take a minute to say I have to run, but I really, really am so incredibly impressed with Anna. I cannot believe this was your first technical talk, Anna, and it was amazing. And I think you nailed it, and it could not have gone better. And so I just want to tell you that you're amazing, and thank you. And I want to thank the Cypress team and the Angular Africa hosts, Val and Oya, and thank you so much. And I have to drop, but I love you all. Thanks, Paul and Adam and Anna and Dimitri and Anna's cat. This was so cool. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
I actually lost the track of time. I didn't know we've gone past the scheduled time. Anyway, I think we can still take some questions from anyone who wants to ask before we, wrap it up. Do we still have questions? Okay, before we wrap it up, let me. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say, as questions queue up, if we do have any, we're happy to join and see Anna sort of get from, square one and get things, get herself on her feet. Obviously, if you have any particular questions about Cypress, head up the docs. I'll drop the link in the chat here. Our team specifically tries to do our best to, not only maintain the docs, but make sure the content is clear and concise and is easy to understand. And as many examples as we can, whether that's text-based or video-based. We're producing some more video content. So definitely hit up the docs. Keep that bookmarked. It's going to be your friend. And I like to think that we answer almost all the questions you could think of, but we're certainly adding to it at all times. So you can obviously open an issue as well too if there's something that you think should be there or something that you think should be fixed. We're open source, so please do contribute if you find the need. But yeah, all the specifics should be available at our docs page.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So before we wrap up, Oye, do you have anything for us? Any news? Anything that's happening in the Angular community?
Yeah. So I think the biggest part of that is the Angular team released a document that shows version 12's internationalization is more stable and consistent with message ID. So how that works, they released a doc about that. So for anyone who is interested in internationalization, I think that's a good read for us. And also on Angular Nation here, we have a couple of events coming up. Tomorrow we have Angular projects with Aries. We also have the Storybook Office hours with Kai. Hello, Kai. And on Thursday, we have introduction into WebAssembly. So if you're curious about WebAssembly, we also have an event coming up on Thursday for that. And then on Friday, we have our Friday social. And that's just basically where we hang out after the whole week and talk about our week. Yeah, so that's mostly it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Oye. Okay, I want to especially thank Adam, Paul, and Anna for making this possible. We really appreciate your time, and we hope to see you, some other time. And thanks to every other person here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you again as well. Have a great evening, or great morning, or great noon. Bye.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Adam.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.